All right, Mr. Vick.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. In 2014, the state of Washington implemented so-called universal background checks. The same out-of-state lobbyists that wrote this bill penned that one as well. We were told that up to 40% of firearm transfers are done without background checks through a private sale. However, since the inception of the universal background check in Washington state, the FBI NICS data, which tracks transfers, shows that less than 2% of total gun transfers in the state were between private parties. That allows for two conclusions. By the way, Colorado only saw 7% of the 40% that they expected to see in transfers once they implemented their universal background check system. So this allows for two conclusions. Either A, the oft-touted 40% claim of gun transfers being done without a background check is a complete fallacy, or B, these states have turned thousands of previously law-abiding citizens into criminals for not complying with this new law. Regardless, neither is the outcome this bill seeks. As has been said before, we've talked about the availability, the burden being put on law-abiding citizens that want to sell each other firearms privately. A lot of people said, oh, there's 1,400 FFLs in the state of Minnesota. I am an FFL in the state of Minnesota. And here's what I can tell you. 63 of those, of the 1,400, are gun shops that have regular business hours and are generally open to the public. We have a number of firearm manufacturers. We have a number of ammunition manufacturers here in the state that all have FFL licenses. And they are not open to the public, and they are not doing transfers. So the availability of an FFL may be an hour, hour and a half drive for an individual coming from outstate Minnesota. And as has been said before, please don't come to Minneapolis or St. Paul because we can't help you. But when they do find an FFL that's willing to do a private transfer, there's nothing that says we have to. But if they're willing to do that for them, then they're going to charge both parties a fee to do so. And then if they get put on a temporary hold, as we've talked about before, the fallacy of the 2 million denials, they are not denials. They are overwhelmingly temporary holds that go away within 2 to 3 days. So you've driven an hour and a half, 2 hours, you've paid your money, you go through your background check, and then you find out that you've been put on a delay. So you get to turn around 2 or 3 days later and come back and do it all over again. So it does put a burden on law-abiding citizens. What about enforcement? The report I talked about before shows that universal background checks in Washington have resulted in 0 charges and 0 prosecutions. So experience tells us that the private transfers are either grossly overestimated or there's a massive noncompliance, neither of which results in charges, let alone prosecutions, and that clearly demonstrates the poor efficacy of this bill. As was mentioned before, the DOJ reports that 95% of guns used in crime are obtained illegally or through licensed dealers that do require a background check. So the 70% that you were referring to are illegal obtaining of firearms, mostly by prohibited persons. The other 15% is through licensed dealers and are subject to background checks. So they either passed the background check or they were involved. Actually, a straw purchase would be an illegal purchase. So you have 95% of them are obtained illegally or through licensed dealers, not through private transfers. I want to see the already plummeting rate of gun homicide reduced as much, if not more, than anyone else. And gun homicide has plummeted over the last 20 years. It is not increasing. This bill doesn't do that. It doesn't help reduce gun homicide. It's merely political theater designed to convince voters that something, anything, is being done to reduce gun crime when the facts prove it does not and it will not. Thank you.